let's do exhaust today. Okay, here's what we got to do. I've kind of got it sort of mocked up. This is up inside there maybe half an inch or so. And I'm using the band clamp there just to kind of space it, because right here you got these steps and you want to be sure that you've got enough room that's not against the clamps here. I really like these band clamps, and I've got one there. Of course I'll be putting one there, but on the Jeep currently I have one right there, and I have another one tucked way up inside there. The reason I use those band clamps like that, it makes your exhaust modular, so to speak, to where if I want to pull the engine out of it, or I need to do some work with the transmission or the transfer case, I can make my exhaust modular to get sections of it out of the way. I can take the clamp loose here, and the clamp loose is way back up inside there, which allows me to drop out the exhaust and tailpipe, or half the tailpipe, getting it out of the way. Then my front section, which curves around here, I can take that out. It makes life much easier in taking your exhaust apart. So my predicament is right there is where the exhaust camera angle, where's it at? Right there. That's where hanging off the bottom of the tub is where your exhaust hangs downward, or the bushing or the isolator thingy, that rubber thingy right there, it hangs straight down, which hooks on this. Well, what that tells me is that's going to help me determine this is where that's going to be located. From this point to this point is going to determine where the muffler ends here. That will set me up to where I can measure how much section of pipe I need from here to the middle of that clamp I've got going on right there. Okay, so I'm going to get these dimensions down and we'll see where we at. Now, after measuring my exhaust from the center of my hooks to the end of the pipe here, I get 21 inches. And so what I've got going on here, I take my tape measure, set it right there to the middle of that pin right there, which is where it's hanging off the body, the tub for your factory exhaust. Tape measure ending right there, extending up this way, and 21 inches is right there. Now if you project that 21 inches straight down, it's about right along in there of that Flowmaster here, which means that's where this is. Then I need to calculate how much pipe I'm going to need from the middle where that would be to the middle of this right here. So I want to measure that. But what you want to do is, the problem of it is, this is kicking back at an angle because my catalytic converter is sitting at an angle like this. So I've got my pipe coming from the engine sits kind of like that. So I got to make this angle match coming off the muffler and down to that. Not a big deal, but it's something I got to point out. So what you do is, I'm going to measure where it overlaps this by about 3/8 of an inch, because I'm going to weld the part on the muffler once I get my proper angle. Then project outward this way, which will hit that pipe there. So let's get that dimension. Positioning my tape measure right there on that angle where the Flowmaster tapers down to the straight pipe here, and it looks like I'm gonna be at about from the middle of that clamp at about 5 3/8 of an inch or something. No, about 5 1/4 inches or so. But I'm not exactly gonna go with that dimension. For one, I'm gonna overshoot it by a little bit more. So I don't know. It's easier to take metal out than it is to put it in. So I'm gonna cut that at 6 inches. Well, I'm gonna make that dimension 6 inches plus about 3/8 to 1/2 inch overlap here. So let's just cut it at 6 1/2 inches. That'll give me what I need to make it work here. Shoot that angle down, tapering it to match that angle, and whatever I have to take off and cut from that point on, it's easier to remove metal than it is to add metal. So 6 1/2 inches it is. I use my tape measure right there. You can't really see it, but I took a screwdriver, scratched it off my dimension. And this little tool right here is kind of like, if you guys have ever flared tubing like brake line or something like that, you got that little tubing tool that cuts your brake line. Well, this is a big version of that. That's great on exhaust. Now this one I've had for many years, so those rollers are a bit wore out. But basically what you do is open up as wide, the jaws as wide as you can. Take that, hook it in there to where you can get the best grip on it. And as you close it up, you kind of see, kind of gently, don't squeeze as hard here. You just want to gently allow it to center itself and get a parallel with your pipe. You see right there's my scratch. So you'll notice that the rollers put a fine line fine little line right there, right over top of that dimension, which means I've got it squared up. So from this point, you want to hold the pipe secure as possible and gently squeeze this, but as the more you cut, put a little bit more pressure into it. You can see right there it's actually cutting into the pipe. You see on the close-up here, you see that score line right there where those rollers are cutting deeper and deeper into the exhaust pipe. So basically you just hold on to it and keep working it back and forth. As long as this roller here and this roller here is overlapping each other as you come back and forth, you're cutting 360 all the way around the pipe. So just squeeze into it and keep working back and forth till you get the pipe cut in two. The total time it took me to cut that was probably 8 to 10 minutes or something like that. And like I said, these rollers wore out. I've had this tool right here for many, many years. You feel there comes a point to where the chain kind of collapses in. I see the grip kind of comes in. That's when you've cut through everything. But there's always a little bit here, like you see where it hinges, that doesn't cut all the way through. You feel this right here, this handle collapse. When it does, just hold it loosely and keep working with it, and you feel the pipe start to get loose and more loose to where it's cut. Then you just got this little area right here, just simply work with it like that. Ta-da! And you got it cut. Now, of course, this being the style that is, it's going to cause a flange out here where the cut mark is, and they'll push the metal inward inside the pipe here. So basically what you're going to do at this point, take your file, or if you've got a Dremel tool or even an angle grinder, taper that right there off, come all around to make sure it's nice and even, then taper this. Now I took my little cutoff wheel right here, just kind of went around it like this right here to cut off all that burring, to where you get it expands up this way and goes down that way, so you had to knock up all that lip stuff. Now this exhaust adapter right here that I picked up at the auto parts store is the same diameter here. So what does that mean to you? The ends of the exhaust pipe on this muffler, this is 2 1/4 OD here. Well, I went to the exhaust section of the auto parts store. They didn't have what I was looking for. I was needing a 2.5 inch OD to 2 1/4 inch OD to do what I wanted to do. So they didn't have that. So what I ended up getting was a 2.5 inch ID to 2.5 inch OD. You can see that it is a very snug fit right there. Okay. Why does that even matter? Because this pipe right here is the exact same size as this. You see the outside inside diameter is the same. Now the one caveat to this is it can be that same size on the OD. If your exhaust tubing is a thicker gauge, that will change the inside diameter, okay? But notice this does not fit on there like it should. You notice how tight this fit on there when it went on? Well, this will not. Why? Because most of your typical exhaust tubing that you buy in bulk, if you look right, see what's at the camera? Right there. See that lip? That's where it's a welded seam going all the way down the middle of the pipe. That welded seam always interferes from being a very tight fit. So this being a tight fit for one, and for two, I need to, if you remember right when we did that shot earlier, I need to pitch this pipe down at an angle just a little bit to compensate for the angle of my catalytic converter. So the best thing I can do, since I'm going to weld this section of pipe to this muffler, I'm going to take my little cutoff wheel here, split it right on this welded seam right there. One, that'll get rid of that welded seam that's interfering with me sliding over top of this. Two, splitting it will allow me to get that angle I need, and it'll be a tight fit on the pipe here, so then I can run my bead around this and weld up that seam where I split it. So what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to take my cutter, split it right on that seam right there. Cool. Now even though after splitting that right there, you would think one, getting rid of that weld right, get back in the viewfinder, getting rid of that weld seam right there, they would have slid right off top of that. But remember what I said a moment ago, if you've got quality exhaust tubing and the wall thickness is thicker than, like I say, one of those cheap adapters you get at the auto parts store, that will decrease your inside diameter, so it won't exactly fit like you think it will. Like on that adapter I showed you how it was a tight fit, but it was slide up top of it. We see here it won't, even though this end doesn't have, this end still has that weld piece in it, but even after splitting that, it didn't want to fit on it like that. So what I did was I swelled this end a little bit, and it still is a tight fit, but at this point right here, I can put a block of wood on the end of the pipe here and drive it up on there, and then adjust the angle as I need to. Now y'all saying, how did I swell the end of the pipe? I got me a piece of pipe that's a smaller, the OD is smaller than the ID of this pipe, okay? So what I did was I kind of pushed it up on there, took my hands, let me zoom back a little bit. Got it up on there, took my hands and pushed downward hard, which makes that split right there swell. And as you work around it, push down, it'll roll that edge, it'll bell mouth it out. Anyway, that's what I did, which I've already got the bell mouth already done in it, so let's go back to the muffler. Now to be sure we put it on the correct end, this is the outlet end going toward the rear of your Jeep or vehicle, whatever, even if you're doing this on not a Jeep, which makes that the inside going, the inlet side, that's it, yeah, it's not the inside, the side going toward your motor. Anyway, there's the bell mouth piece. Now, in order to configure this correctly, the thrust here has to be on top, and you notice that sits on there about right. So I don't know what to do with my hammer, so maybe we can take this, ta-da. Now it's just driven straight down on there. I know, like I mentioned earlier, that I've got to adjust the angle because my catalytic converter sits at an angle above the skid plate. So what we'll have to do is, once I adjust my angle for this to fit flush against the pipe coming off the catalytic converter, once I get that angle, then I can weld that seam up right there, weld that hole up, come around the seam, weld and all that, and I'll have it in place and be able to bolt it in. Let's get that back section cut off. You see I've already sliced through the pipe there. And what you really want to do is, if you're going to use one of these cutters like this, before you start, like where I've got that band clamp here, and I've got a band clamp here, before you start taking off those or any kind of other clamps, your exhaust is much more stable while it's still hanging on its hangers and such. So this makes it a lot easier. So go ahead and cut it like that first, then remove all your hangers and such. Didn't appear like there's a whole lot holding my exhaust together at all, was it? Done my little cutter tool right there. Got tired of playing with that, so I got in there with the Sawzall, and well, it just kind of shook the rest of the exhaust apart. So that was easy enough. Guess it's time to put the new one in now. Take your new exhaust pipe, turn it sideways like this, feed that in over the diff, and take it over, it'll fall right down like that. Sweet. Now, if you notice right here, I want to figure out something to do because this is rusted in too, obviously. And I had it tied up there with a bolt and exhaust clamp, which I may end up doing the same thing again. The exhaust clamp has a strap and the rubber strap bushing thing on it. I don't have another one of these laying around. Even the one on Rust Bucket was gone. So, I'm going to figure out something on that part. Not a big deal though. Removed my old exhaust rubber bushings here and put in some new ones. These are here, you need to poke the holes out in them. There it goes. You go up on here like this, as you see with that one. You take your hooks for your exhaust hanger to your pipe, just hook around through each one like that. And of course my back end's hanging down because I got nothing to hook it on, so let's go back and look see if we can figure something out. I thought about using one of those up here, but let's make the exhaust hang too low because once you hook it into that rubber bushing, yeah, it's gonna be kind of like hanging down like that, too low. Because I need it up here like this. So I thought, what do I do? I got an idea. So I kept nosing around all my scrap metal crap and found this. Now, y'all think, okay, it's a piece of tubing. I've got an 80 Yamaha SS650 that I chopped, bobbed, raked. I mean, it's been like totally modified a lot. And this is a piece of the tubing from the bracket kit that I welded into it. So, slide that over that. It comes up here on this. I'll weld that in place there. That will give me a proper hanger. But you're going to say, oh, that's going to rattle. You are correct, it will. I couldn't find a piece of vacuum line, so got some old spark plug wires. Pull a straight boot off. It feeds through the tubing, over this, and we have a rubber oscillator. You gotta do what you gotta do. It's gonna work. So I'm gonna weld this piece right here in real quick. Well, got it welded in place. And y'all thinking, well, you forgot to put your boot on. Well, you can't put it on while you're welding. I've already got the front hangers hooked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and work on the muffler, get in position while this cools down. Then I can take my little rubber boot here, slide it in on the end right here, bring it back this way, pushing it through the hole. So I got it going on. So that's a much better hanger than before. Sweet. Alright, let's get that muffler going. While we wait for the welds to cool down on the muffler, let's put this on. Remember we had to wait because we welded that piece onto the tailpipe? Let's put this in now. And I'll show you how I got that angle here in a minute once it cools down. Now we got to put this on. Put a little spit on it. Anyway, you guys will see what I'm doing. I need your hands for this. Anyway, you guys see what I'm doing. I'm going to push that up in there. So I will be back in a minute. Alright, look at yonder. We got that thing pushed up on that hanger. No rattles. Sweet. That's going to work out just perfect. I like it. Okay, those of you who have never used these band clamps before, you see it's just a stainless steel band here that wraps around the exhaust pipe. And as you tighten it up, it goes inside this piece right here, because you got a curved side here and a flat side here. The flat side is going to go to the outside like so, because the curve is going to contour to the pipe. So as it tightens down, these pieces right here, sitting inside here, will squeeze that band, the steel, inward into this curve, which squeezes the pipe and holds it in place. They work pretty sweet. I like them. So what you're going to do is go here. First of all, kind of hard to demonstrate if you don't get the nuts off the bolts. And notice how it's got this step right here. That is for a joint that the pipe goes up inside the other pipe, okay? And if you got one that's completely flat, like, hold on, let me grab it. If you got one that's flat like this right here, that means the pipes come in together and they butt together end to end. They don't overlap. The step here is for when the pipe overlaps each other, okay? So again, how they go together, look real close. See, you got curved side, flat side. Curved side goes to the inside. Put one of these in place. Take your bolt, run through here, there. Bolt runs through here, into there. This piece goes there. And just, that'll hold it in place for right now. So we'll go up underneath here in a moment. We'll put all these in place and get everything tightened up. Y'all know you want me to do it before I put the muffler on. Alright, we'll go turn the key on. There, you happy? Alright, let's put the muffler on. Okay, I've got the muffler just sitting in place right now. Kind of, sort of. Of course, I'm just kind of hanging on that edge right there. Got this seam welded because this is where the band clamp for the butt end to end, that's where that clamp goes. This is the overlap end. And once I get it in place, it's going to be sitting about like that right there. Got plenty of clearance, no vibrations anywhere. So, cool. Okay, I'm going to slide these clamps on real quick and tighten them up. Okay, you take that clamp, see where your step is, slide it all the way in till it bumps against that. I can't see the viewfinder, there we go. Slide that all the way in. Let's put my glasses back here. Oh, hit the camera. Trying to do this one-handed. And that goes up here like this. Anyway, you get the point. I'm trying to do this one-handed. It ain't flying very well. I take this band clamp, slide it back further enough that your seam here is still exposed, so you can get your seam lined up correctly and get your angle set correctly. Then you can slide your clamp over this, and you want to take the clamp. The middle of the clamp is going to be where the seam's at. Okay? So, set my angle on my muffler, make sure I get it right. But I need a shorter tripod so I can put this underneath there. See, twist my muffler a little bit, get that angle set right. What I'm checking for is making sure my pipe is flush against each other all the way around. Because when I tack welded it in, then burned my welds in, it was. There we go. That's what we're looking for right there. It's flush all the way around. So now I can slide my clamp up, putting the seam here in the middle of the clamp and tighten my clamp. Now be good to go. Look yonder. I was able to get my impact up in here and tighten those up. Had to wrench that one, but look, solid as it can be, no rattles. So I think we need to start it up, see what it sounds like. What do you think? Yeah, let's do it. Don't sound too shabby, does it? Not bad. Revved up, had no vibrations on the inside like it's hitting the frame or the skid plate or anything. Now I've got 2.5 inch exhaust coming from the header back to the catalytic converter and through the catalytic converter where it joins onto the muffler. That's all 2.5 inch. So the clearance is a little bit tight around the skid plate. But I made it clear, so it's all good to go. So like I said, don't sound too shabby, huh? Oh yeah, did you see all that blue smoke? Well, I didn't see it coming out of the, I'll probably see it when I do the edit here, but I seen it kind of rolling past the Jeep when I first fired it up. Number 6 cylinder pumps a lot of oil. And so yeah, I've got another engine on the stand inside the shop, and eventually I'm going to be doing an engine rebuild. And then I'll take that engine, drop it in this one. The one that's in it right now, probably somewhere down the road doing a 4.6 stroker build. That will be sweet. So, you know, if you like this video, hit me that thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, leave me some cool comments down below. And each one of the muffler, the tailpipe, and the tools that I use, I'll put links down below where you guys can purchase it. Now, that muffler doesn't exactly fit this Jeep exactly right because you notice how it kind of canted at an angle. So what you really need to do is look under your Jeep first. Look at your muffler. I'll tell you what, let's go look at that Flowmaster so I can explain it to you. Okay, looking at the Flowmaster here, I wanted to explain how whenever you order mufflers, you got offsets and you got centers and all that fun stuff. Your offset is where your inlet or your outlet is. This is an offset inlet center outlet. What you need to do is look under your Jeep and look and see what your factory muffler is. If it's a center, you'll have to go with that. If yours is an offset center, then you need to go with that. Or if yours is a center offset, you need to go with that. When I built my exhaust on my Jeep sometime back, and like I said earlier in the video, most of my parts that was under the Jeep come out of a 90 Bronco that I stripped out, and so I just kind of haphazardly fabbed everything together to get the Jeep on the road. Well, as you see, throughout the years that I've been driving, and my pipe has rusted apart. I think the muffler's even got issues. Yeah, it's got a little hairline crack right there. Actually, a little bit of doctoring might be used on something, but I don't know what. Then, of course, that's on the rust. I had my pipe, going from here into the muffler. So anyway, like I said, look under before you order your mufflers. Look under and see what your configuration is. If you're center, you need to do that. If you're offset center, you need to do that. Or if you're center offset, you need to do that. And I say, because I'm starting here going back, this is the inlet side, this is the outlet side. Inlet closest to the engine, outlet going out your tailpipe. So pay attention before you order your exhaust as to what your configuration is. Now I'll put a link down below for all the tools that I use, the tailpipe, the muffler that I use, and all that fun stuff. Now again, the tailpipe is for a YJ. No problems with that. Where you're going to come into questions, like I keep mentioning, is your muffler configuration. Be able, again, check center, offset, or center offset. Look at what your current muffler is before you order it. And these band clamps, love them, they're awesome. So, yep, that's it. So everyone, if you enjoyed that video, hit me with a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, leave me some cool comments down below, and I really appreciate you hanging out with me. Peace out. Later, y'all.